Hi folks, so this is the last lesson of this chapter. So you should be finishing up, making sure most of your homework is done, making sure you put the finishing touches on everything. If you have questions, please go see Miss Thompson in room 215. Miss Adeni is right next door. She has a spare during our class. So if you're stuck on something and you can't get help, or you're all stuck on the same thing, or maybe I'm not clear in my explanation, Miss Adeni is right next door and she has a spare in A, and I'm sure she would love to help you. Okay, last lesson, distribution and fractional coefficients. We're going to do them kind of two separate things. We're going to deal with distribution first. And distribution we did in polynomials. We did it, and you guys did really well with it. We leapfrogged. We multiplied the 6 in here, and we multiplied the 6 by the back. So 6 times 5 gives us 30, and 6 times 3 gives us 18. There's a subtract sign, there's a subtract sign. Ta-da! Okay, you've distributed. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to combine any constants or variables on opposite sides, remove any coefficients from the variable, and you're going to go ahead and solve. So it's kind of like 4-step algebra. So sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 3, but we'll see what goes on here. Okay, so we're going to multiply this in. So we're going to have negative 7x because there's that invisible number 1 right in front. So 1 times negative 7 is negative 7, and we put the x. Now we're going to take a negative 7, and we're going to times it by 3, but the 3 has a subtract sign in front of it. So it's like saying negative 7 times by negative 3. So that's going to give us a positive 21. So we're going to write add 21 equals negative 7. So we distributed. The act of multiplying it through is called distribution in math. Sometimes I'll use the word leapfrog because it reminds me I gotta bounce into both, every term in the bracket. So I gotta make sure I do it to both. Now I'm just applying my algebra rules. So we only have one x, and it's right there. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna get rid of the 21. So I'm gonna subtract 21 from both sides. So I'm gonna have a negative 7x equals a negative 28. The coefficient is multiplied, so I'm going to divide by negative 7. Divide by negative 7. So x is equal to a positive 4. And again, I'm pretty good with my basic division, so I'm remembering these facts from that 10 by 10 table. I know that 4 times 7 is 28. I know a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. So those are all things I'm doing in my head. You might not be as comfortable. So if you're not comfortable with that, go to your calculator. And that's okay, because you're going to practice it more and you are going to get really good at it. All right. Here we go again. We're going to leapfrog. We're going to distribute the 3 throughout the brackets. I like to draw the arrows just to remind myself that I got to do it to both terms. So 15 stays on the left-hand side. 3 times x is 3x because it has that invisible coefficient of 1 right there. And 1 times 3 is 3. And then I have a positive 3 by a negative 4, so that's going to be a negative 12. Again, I only have I only have like one set of x's here, so I'm going to leave them where they are. Normally I like to have my x's on the left-hand side, but I'm not going to make more work for myself. I've only got one set. I'm going to leave them where they are. I'm going to deal with this guy. I'm going to get rid of this constant. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So if I add 12 to the right-hand side, I have to add 12 to the left-hand side. So that gives me 0. I've got 3x, and that's going to be 27. Okay. Now I want to get rid of the coefficient in front of the 3. We know those are multiplied. So I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3. So I'm left with 1x, but I'm just going to write it as x. And 27 divided by 3, hopefully is still 9, like I think I remember. All right. Moving right along. We're going to leapfrog again. And again, I like to draw the arrows. If that doesn't make any sense to you, you do not have to do it. But it helps me remember what I'm supposed to do and who I'm supposed to multiply things by. So, with that being said, let's do some multiplying. So -5 times by 10 is -50. And then a -5 times by a positive 2x is going to be -10x. And we're going to write that as a subtract sign. And that's equal to -30. So you only distribute into the brackets. You do not hop it to the other side. That's bad, oh bad. You just multiply that into the brackets. And we're going to get a little bit more complicated when you get to grade 10 with this. It's super fun though. And when you get the hang of it, it's really good. And you get better at algebra and you're like, hey, I got some smarts. And we all have smarts and we're all going to get good at it. So I need to move this guy because I only have one set of x's. So I'm going to move this guy to be with its other constant. So it's a -50, so I have to add 50. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. So if I add 50 here, I add 50 here. A lot of times I see people put a subtract here. That's not what you do. It's like a balance scale. We want to keep it even. If I add 50 over here, I got to add 50 to this side. So we know that that gives us 0. We're at -10x. -30 plus 50 is a positive 20. And again, if you don't feel comfortable, use your calculator. And then we are going to divide by -10, divide this side by -10, and I have x equals a -2. All right, there's my answer. I'm done. So it's not a ton more work, but it's just that next layer. And so if you haven't practiced your 3-step yet, you might find the distribution a little bit more challenging. It's kind of meant to build on each other. So you really need to go back to your 1-step, then your 2-step, then your 3-step, and then this lesson. So if you haven't got your homework done, I would recommend you go back and do the other ones first before you attempt this one. But if you get it and you understand it, then dive in, like do it, just jump in, get the practice if it makes sense to you. Okay, I'm switching colors one more time. 3 times x, and then 3 times 4. And then on this side, maybe I'll use a different color. The 2 goes into the x and also to the 1. So we're going to have 3x plus 12 equals 2x minus 2. So now this is 3-step. So you see why it's important to practice the 3-step before doing the distribution, because they're kind of all linked together. Okay, so now I'm going to bring, like I said, I like when I have different sets of x's, I like to bring them all to the left-hand side. So I'm going to bring this guy over. So I'm going to minus 2x, because that's going to get rid of that whole term. I'm going to minus 2x on this side. So I'm going to be left with a minus 2 on this side. And 3x minus 2x is 1x plus 12. I didn't need to write the 1, but I did it anyway. Now I want to get rid of this 12. I don't want it to be with the x, so I'm going to subtract 12. Subtract 12. So I'm left with 1x equals negative 14. Do I need to divide out the coefficient of 1? I really don't, because anything divided by 1 is itself. So if you divide 1 out, you're going to have x equals negative 14. Well, you're going to have 1x equals negative 14, which is the exact same line we had up here. So you don't even need to do that step. But if it makes your head feel better, definitely do it. Okay, so that's the distribution part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip over into fractions. And I hear the groans. I don't hear them. I'm not here. But I know people don't like fractions. And I get it. They're hard. They're a little bit complicated. They don't make sense sometimes. but we really still do need to practice with them to become better at them. So I encourage you to try. Even if it doesn't come easy, definitely try. Don't get frustrated and just not do, but give them a try and ask for help, whether it's from me or from the substitute teacher or Miss Denny next door or any of the math teachers in this hallway. Ask for help. We will help you and we will try to find a way to make it work. Okay, so fractions. When we have fractions and equations, step one, if you have a mixed number fraction, so that would be like 2 3/4. That's that one. A mixed number looks like that. Change it to an improper fraction. You're going to lose your mind if you leave it as a mixed number. So what I need you to do is change it into an improper fraction. If you remember how to do that, we take 2 times 4 and we add the numerator and it stays over the denominator of 4. So we go 2 times 4, so the base times the big, so BB, they get multiplied, and then you add in the 3. So that would be 2 times 4 is 8, 8 plus 3. My improper fraction would be 11 over 4. That would be my improper fraction. So much easier to do the math as an improper fraction. You're going to find in high school math, we really deal mostly with improper fractions. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we want to eliminate the denominator. That's our goal. We're going to eliminate the denominator. And really, a fraction is just saying 11 divided by 4. So if we want to get rid of that divide by 4, we're just doing the opposite operation. We multiply it by 4. But you multiply all the terms. Even if they don't have the bottom, you have to multiply them by the denominator. And then you're just left with a regular old equation, and life's great, and you know how to do that. So let's attempt right now. Okay, so what do we see here? We see denominators of 8. So that means if I want to get rid of this 8, I have to times every term, even the ones with O to denominator, I have to times them by 8. I'm having a hard time drawing an 8 today. All right, so 8 divided by 8 is just 1. And what's 1 times 3? That's 3. Now, 8 times m, because there's no denominator on that m, that's 8m. And then we have 1 times 1, which is 1. So oftentimes I just cross them out and I don't even write the ones up there because anything times by 1 is itself. But the next example I'm going to show you, you're going to see why I started that way. Okay, so this is just a 2-step. I want to get that 3 to the other side. I want to get it away from the variable. So it's a positive 3, so I'm going to subtract 3. I'm going to have 8m equals, because we know that that equals 0. 1 subtract 3 is going to be a negative 2. We're going to divide by 8 on the left-hand side, so that means we divide by 8 on the right-hand side. And m is equal to a negative 2 over 8. How do you guys feel about the slash? I don't really like it. I'm not good with it, but I was running out of room. Now, could we reduce that fraction? Could I take the same factor? Could I take a number out of the numerator and the denominator? I can. I can divide this by 2 and I can divide this by 2. So I would have m is equal to negative 1/4. And that is the most correct answer because it's in simplest form. Okay. So there we are. A little bit different, a little bit interesting. Okay, we're good. Now we're gonna move on. Did you guys need to see this? I feel like maybe I went a little bit fast. Take a second to make sure you get all the steps copied down. right. If you need to pause the video at any time, please do. This is tough stuff, and you're getting a lesson that's super tough, and might need a little bit of practice. So don't worry, you're gonna have some extra time to work on it. So don't fret. We just need to make sure that you practice. Okay, looking at this, you're like, but all the denominators are different. I agree with you. Well, not all the denominators. 2 are 12 and 1 is 3. But what we need to know is what is the lowest common denominator between 12 and 3? So what number do 12 divide evenly into and 3 divide evenly into? What's that smallest number? We need one number. And the answer is 12, because 3 divides into 12. So if I times this one by 12, and this one by 12, and this one by 12. So remember how over here I was like 8 divided by 8 gives me 1? We're going to do the same thing. So 12 divided by 12 gives me 1. 12 divided by 12 gives me 1. 3 divided into 12 leaves me with 4. Okay? So now we have 1x minus 5 equals negative 2 times 4, which is 8. And I know that seems like a little bit of magic, but all you're doing is dividing and then multiplying. Maybe let me take a step back. I don't have an eraser. Let me take a step back. So that would be 1 times x minus 5 times 1 equals negative 2 times 4. I said it, but then sometimes it makes sense to see it. So 1 times x is just x, minus 5 equals a negative 8. And then we're just down to one-step algebra at this time, which is nice and easy. We're going to add 5 to both sides. And then I'm left with x on this side, and this side is negative 3. So sometimes you'll get whole answers, sometimes you'll get fractional answers, and all of those are okay. That's okay. I think sometimes finding that denominator is the tough part. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. I'll try to keep them both on the same page so you can look at them. Again, if you need to pause the video, please go ahead and pause the video so that you get this entire thing done. You get the whole piece of information. Okay, I'm going to try to go slow again. What single number does 3, 12, and 6 divide into? What number does 3, 12, and 6 all divide into? So you need to know stuff about numbers. You need to know properties of divisibility. You need to know, hey, what are my, if I do this, I think we did this in doing our roots. So if we count by threes, it would be 3, 6, 9, 12, and then it would be 12, 24, 36. Then if we did sixes, it would be 6, 12, 18, 24. Oh, sorry, this one, I'm going backwards. That's 48. So if I look at those numbers and I just do the skip counting, count by threes, count by 12s, count by 6, do you see a number that they all share? We see a 12, a 12, and a 12. So if they all share that number, that means they all can divide evenly into that number. So that's the number that we're going to use. That's what we're going to multiply every term by. So we're going to multiply this term by 12, this term by 12, and that term by 12. All right, here we go. How many times does 3 divide into 12? So if you're not sure, we're going to take the big number 12, and we're going to divide it by 3, and you're going to get an answer of 4. So we're going to have, I'm just going to write a 4 up there. I cross that out, I cross the 12 out, and I write the 4 up top. And 12 divides into 12 once, and 6 divides into 12 2 times. All right, so I'm going to have, I almost forgot that negative sign there. Negative 1 times 4 minus 5 times 1 equals 1 times 2. So we're going to do that multiplying. Negative 4 minus 5. Ooh, I forgot my x. I totally forgot Mr. X. Like, let me put him in there. See, I snuck him in like it never ever happened. See, we all make mistakes. Whew, we didn't have an X. It was going to be a weird statement. It wasn't going to be good. Luckily, I saved the day. So we are going to add 5 to both sides because I want to isolate that X. So we are going to have negative 4x, because that gives me 0, equals 7. Divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4. So x is equal to 7 over negative 4. Sorry, I used a slash again because I was running out of room. Now, is there a number that comes out of 7 and 4? Like, can I divide a number out of 7 and out of 4? And right away I know the answer is no, because 7 is a prime number. And prime numbers, the only two numbers that can divide into them are themselves, so number 7 and number 1. And so that is my final answer. I've had lots of people ask, does it matter if the negative is on the bottom or the top? And the answer is no. If you had the answer as x equals negative 7 over 4, that is 100% correct as well. I'm pretty bad, not pretty bad, I'm often putting the negative always on top. It's just a habit. I like to do my math the exact same way every time. My brain remembers it better, and it makes me feel good. Makes my head better. Okay, this is a long lesson, guys, and I'm sorry. All right, here we go. What? My denominator is x? That's crazy. My denominator is x. What am I supposed to do with that? You do it the exact same way. These denominators are invisible, they're ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to times everything by x. It's no different than if it were a number. It's no different at all. We're just trying to get that x off the bottom. And I think we did this in step 3 algebra. So it's just a practice. It's the same thing that we're going to do. We know x divided by x leaves us with an answer of 1. And we know 1 divided by x is x, and 1 divided by x is x. So same sort of thing. So we're going to have 12 times 1 minus 2x equals 4x. So we have 12 minus 2x equals 4x. So we need to know stuff about numbers. Now, I usually move my x's to this side. I usually move my x's to the left-hand side, but then that would leave 0 over here, and I'd have to move 12, and it would be very confusing. So what makes sense in this case is I'm going to take this, and I want to move it to the other side. Because 12 is already here, I can just take that x and separate it, because I know I need to get my x's all on one side. So I'm going to add 2x, because that will give me 0 on this side, and I'm going to add 2x here. So I'm going to have 12 equals 6x. That's just two-step algebra. So we're going to divide out the 6 on both sides. I'm left with x equals 2. Okay, we're doing good. Take a deep breath. Lots of fraction work, but you're smart people. You will definitely get the hang of it. We just need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. I've lost my purple pen. Anybody see my purple pen? Like seriously. Oh, here it is, right in front of my face. Okay. So now we're looking at common denominators between 2 and 4. So I'm going to do the same skip counting I did before. I'm just going to run out of room. So I'm going to do it on this sheet. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 if I'm skip counting for the 2s. And if I'm skip counting for the 4s, I start at 4, 8, 12, 16. And if we look for a number that they share, we want to look for the smaller number because they do definitely share 8, and we totally could use 8. But if we use the smaller number, then we won't have to reduce our fraction in the end. So you could totally use 8 if you wanted to, but I would recommend that you use 4. Sorry. Those were the numbers that we were working with. All right, so I'm going to multiply everything by 4. All the terms by 4. So multiply by 4, multiply. Even if it doesn't have a denominator, you have to multiply it by 4. Every term, even if it doesn't have a denominator. All right, so 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. So I'm going to have 2 times 1 plus 8 equals, and we know 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, so 3, guys, 3 times 1, and then I'm going to have minus 7 times 4. Guys, I lost my x's again. There's an x, there's an x. I'm just so excited about numbers. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to have 2x plus 8 equals 3x minus 28. So now it's just your regular old algebra. It's a really good strategy to get rid of the denominators if you can. That is a really good strategy. So like I said, I like to bring my x's to the left-hand side. So I'm going to minus 3x. That's going to give me 0, but I have to minus 3x. And again, I'm stacking them under the like terms. So I'm going to be left with negative 1x plus 8 equals a negative 28. So now I got to minus my 8 from both sides. That's going to give me 0. So I have negative 1x. Negative 28 minus 8 is negative 36. I don't want a negative x, so I got to divide out by that negative 1. And x is equal to a positive 36. All right. Okay, I swear we're almost done. This is a super long lesson. I'm going to give you guys a work period tomorrow to continue working on it. But the deal is you actually have to use the time in class to work on it, okay? Because if you need help, you need to ask each other. You need to ask the substitute. You need to ask me. You can send me an email if I'm not here, or you can see Miss Denny next door. There's lots of resources. There's no excuse to say, well, I didn't get it, so I didn't do it. So please, 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 please practice. Okay. There's 2 ways to do this question. One that probably makes more sense in your little brain, but not your little brain, my little brain. But then there's another way to do it faster. And I find students like the faster one because they don't want to do math for 100 years. So see how these 2 things are multiplied together? That makes them a term. The 2/3 is multiplied by the brackets. Now you could multiply it in if you want to, if that makes more sense to you. Or if you can remember this, if these are multiplied, this becomes 1 term and this becomes 1 term. So there's only 2 terms really. And you're like, Miss Scallion, there's an add and a minus sign in there. So there's more, but the multiplying trumps it. So if we look at 3 and 4, what number do 3 and 4 divide evenly into? And hopefully you're all showing 12. So that means I'm going to times both sides by 12. And you're like, Miss Scallion, you have to times every term by 12. But like I said, this is a term and this is a term because this number is multiplied by that bracket. So 3 divided by 12 is 4. So we're going to have 4 times 2 times the bracket. And 4 goes in here. 3, so that'd be 1 times 3 times what's in the bracket. So I haven't got rid of that, so I'm going to multiply. When I have 3 things to multiply, I like to do 2 first. So I have 8 times x plus 1. And then I have 3 times 2x minus 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and leapfrog that in. I find that makes it so much easier. So I'm going to have 8x plus 8 equals 6x minus 3. I'm going to bring my 6x to the left-hand side, so I'm going to minus 6x, giving me 0. So I'm going to have 2x plus 8 equals a negative 3, minus 8 from both sides. So I'm going to have 2x equals negative 11. Divide out the 2, divide by 2, x is equal to a negative 11 over 2. And I know I can't reduce it because 11 is a prime number again. All right, so that's the answer to that one. I'm going to show you the other way that's a little bit longer. Let me grab a piece of paper. So it was 2/3 x plus 1 equals 1/4 times 2x minus 1. Okay, that was the question. I know there is a blank sheet on the back. There's a blank sheet. So you can write it on here if you want to see the other way to do it. So I'm going to leapfrog in first. So this is like saying they have denominators of 1. So when we multiply fractions, it's straight across the top, straight across the bottom. Straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So this would be 2x over 3 plus 2 over 3. And these would have denominators of 1, so this would be 2x over 4 minus 1 over 4. Okay, so I multiplied the fraction in first. Now I still have denominators of 3 and 4, so the number I'm going to multiply is 12. So this is the way that I think makes more sense, but it's not as fast. So if this makes sense to you and you can do it 100% of the time correctly, do it this way. So 3 divides into 12 4 times. So that's going to be 4 times 2x plus 3 divides into 12 4 times. So we're going to have 2 times 4. 4 divides into 12 3 times. So we're going to have 2x times 3. And 4 goes into 12 3 times. So we have minus 1 times 3. All right, so let's do some math. 8x plus 8 equals 6x minus 3. I think I've seen that somewhere before. Look at that. That's the exact same line as right here. So we do end up getting the same answer. So minus 6x from both sides. Minus 8 from both sides. And I'm just going quick because we already did this. We already did this math. And so you get the exact same answer here. So if this way makes more sense, where you leapfrog it in first, then do that. Okay, so this was a lot of math, and I've taken up a lot of your period. So I really need you guys to work hard on this. I really need you to give it a shot. I need to see your math in your assignments. Please do not copy the answers out of the back. If you have any questions, see Miss Thompson, Miss Adeni, Mr. Switzer, Mr. Fitz, Miss Carr, Miss Krentz. We're all in this hallway, and I promise you somebody can help you. Whoever is in for me while you're doing this lesson might be able to do this too, so ask them first. We're all pretty smart people, and we can work together to find a solution. I hope to see you guys soon. And don't forget, your problem set is going to be on Friday, and Thursday we have student led. So no classes on that day. Okay guys, we'll see you soon.